So anyways, this PowerPoint is just a very simple overview before I get into any details around the boats. This is all, oh thank you. This is all focused on how we conduct races in our little tight harbor here. So the traditional method of like having normal start course, windward, leeward, legs, and all that stuff doesn't always work when the wind direction, like it is today, is going kind of across the narrow portion of it's coming pretty much from behind the building right now. So if we tried to set up a windward, leeward course, it would only be about 50 feet long, and that wouldn't work. So, so first off, this actually was a perfect diagram for today, because what you're looking at is, from the bottom of the screen, is the same direction if we look out into the water right now. So when the wind is blowing kind of between the north or out of the west or anywhere in between, northwest, the wind goes between these buildings and just is absolute chaos. When you're sailing kind of off the peregrine, you might get a little bit more steady flow and kind of, you might be able to have a more steady breeze. Once you get all the way over to the left, I don't know if you know, like that's like the Rossau house next to the club over there. That can be a big wind shadow. There could be no wind over in this corner. And then everywhere in between, as the wind comes between the buildings or goes over the buildings and then drops down, it kind of does this swirling pattern. So you'll be sailing in the dyers and there'll be someone next to you who might be on a different tack or a different point of sail, and it can be very frustrating. And so usually then what you want to do sometimes is just be a little bit patient, because when the wind in that moment is terrible for you, you don't want to do too much maneuvering and slow yourself down. You might just be about to coast into some favorable puff that's going to help you get ahead. So our start lines here. So we will probably do like a little scrimmage race today, kind of towards the end. Because of this unique situation where we have a narrow harbor, we don't do the traditional race committee boat on an anchor and a pin. We do what's called, we have this little barber pole here, this little red and white striped stick hanging up on the porch. And what you do is you sight from the stick to one of the numbered pilings. So there's 4 numbered pilings. And basically if you kind of sight down the 2 of them and line them up, that's the start line. So there's no reference point on the golf course side. So if you're sailing on the other end of the harbor here, you have to be looking at the piling lined up with the stick. And then opposite that, the race committee, who's going to be Drew today, is going to be sighting from the stick, looking down the piling, and if he sees you on the wrong side, he's going to call you over. So listen for your sail number. We'll try and be as loud as possible. So also just the other thing too is that number. So the photograph up on the top left here, you have that little red box. So what we do, there's always going to be 2 pieces of information there. You're going to have the number, which is going to correspond to the piling that we're using today, and then either P or S, which just means that all roundings default to port or starboard.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes we have to do kind of like unique courses where we're kind of forced to do starboard roundings all the way around, but we usually default to port. This is an overview of just the 3-minute start sequence. There's a lot on this screen, but it just boils down to, if any of you have not done a 3-minute start sequence horn before, it's 3 long horns is the start of your 3-minute countdown, 2 long horns is 2, and then basically a short horn is like 10 seconds. So 1 long plus 3 short is 1 minute 30, then 1 long, then 3 short is 20, 3 short is 30, 2 short 20, 1 short is 10, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Long horn is go. So that last long horn at 0 seconds is when the race committee is going to be looking for you to see if you're over the line or not. We don't need to do it. This is kind of like a more advanced level once you really get started into racing. We have a special rule for frostbiting where if you are too close to the left side of the start line, which would require you to eventually tack from starboard onto port. Well, there's a rule that says if there's an obstruction, you are allowed to request for room to tack. So you actually have to hail to the boats around you saying, room to tack. You have to say those 3 words. And the boats basically have to allow you to tack. But what we don't want to encourage is you using that to your advantage at the very beginning. So you could purposely start over there on starboard and then tack on a port and then be a port boat and force everyone to just let you go. So we have, for our program here, we have this 20-second rule. So after the start, there's a 20-second time period where that rule doesn't take effect.
Got it.
At 20 seconds, the race committee will blow a horn, and then that means that now you can go ahead and call for room to tack if you happen to be sailing over.
What's the water situation like over by the wall today? Like today's tide.
So
Fine.
the tide is coming in, so it's actually pretty high already. I mean, like low tide, I think was like closer to 7. So you can pretty much hit the stone wall and not run around.
Got it.
But yeah, you're right. So
And you can see it.
Depends on the
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
right now
you'll
the
feel
mooring-
it too.
Yeah, right now there's mooring lines that are still in place, kind of like along this section here. So you can't go past those lines because it's going to catch your center.
Oh,
board
so
here.
is that's also something?
So that's really today that's the obstruction.
Got it.
So you won't run aground, but you could hook on a mooring line, and that's not fun. So don't do that.
But can you go past them, or you just shouldn't because you're gonna get hooked?
You're gonna get hooked.
Okay.
You're absolutely.
So
you
just
can
don't-
go past them.
Just
but,
don't cross them. Got it.
but just don't cross.
You can go around.
Eventually, in a few weeks, all of those will be out of here,
Right,
and it'll
right.
look just like this photograph here.
Yeah.
Wide open. So
It's gonna be tight out there. I feel like.
yeah. We had 11 boats out here last weekend. It was no problem.
Okay.
So again, this is just kind of a recap, a different perspective, kind of like from your point of view perspective. This boat over here just tacked onto port. These boats just started. And, there's a very good chance that these boats are going to be shouting starboard any second now at this boat here. So maybe these boats started a little too far
Got it.
towards the golf course.
Yeah.
And it might still be 15 seconds to go here, so be careful.
And then what would they just do? Just duck out of the way? They'd have to just duck.
So these guys, if all of a sudden they tack over here and see all these starboard boats, they have to tack back.
Got it.
Or they have to duck them.
Yeah.
That's the bow of our boat in the back.
Exactly.
Our sailboat boat.
Yeah, Grunion makes like a good bumper boat over there.
Right.
Just don't hit
We've
them.
seen the street marks.
Okay, so now again, this is like, there's a lot going on here. This is just an overview of all of the standard marks that we use for frostbiting here. So there's A through D. So we always put them in kind of in the same spot. So for those of you who are familiar with our harbor, we have these floating ideal 18 docks over here. So A is typically over there somewhere. There's no exact science to it, they just drop it. Sometimes we'll move A further out of the harbor, closer into the harbor, depending on the conditions. B is usually off of the Perry Green somewhere. Off of the Perry Green or off of the Levinson's house or something. C is usually over by our Dyer dock. Like somebody told me that C stands for like club. Remember, it's on the club side, and D is for divot because it's near the golf course side. Little mnemonics like that help me remember things, but
It also helps to think of it as going clockwise around.
yes, that's it.
A, B, C, D. Oh,
And
that's
so-
true too. Yeah.
And then you'll note, if you look, you'll see H is in 2 spots and X is in 2 spots. And the reason being is I basically gave like examples of if the wind, it was blowing from the south or the west or the southwest from this side of the TV, we usually put H, if it's a really nice breezy day, H is like a super windward mark. It's not always in the water. We'll only put it in the water if we think we're going to have nice long windward leeward courses. And so the opposite's true. If the wind's blowing out of the east, we'll put H all the way up into the north end of the harbor. And then X is also kind of like another mark that we can kind of drag around. And usually the idea is X is downwind of wherever the start line is. So if the wind is blowing from the right side of the screen, we would put X in the red circle over there, somewhere over there, off of the fuel dock, maybe off of the Dyer dock somewhere. So that allows us to have like slightly shorter courses. If there's terrible wind over near C and D, we'll throw X off the fuel dock and you'll just round X. And the rounding direction is going to go back to the letter that's up on the board. So,
So how's it set up for today?
so we'll kind of have to go figure that out because
Okay.
it's all wind dependent. We might have to change it throughout the day. So
And you just yell off the dock and tell us what to do?
No, you'll
I'll
see.
be on. I'll be on
You put a-
another whaler.
Oh, so
And
you
I'll
can-
be out there kind of talking to you,
Okay.
And there's a,
following you around.
and
Letters?
there's a sign on the porch with the letters.
Okay.
So here's gonna say that.
So these next
Got it.
slides, bear with me on the next couple of slides. These are just examples.
Got it.
So like I have a picture of a board there, BAD, B-A-D. So what is B-A-D? And we got 1 and we got P. And then the wind direction is coming from the mouth of the harbor. So wind direction, you can just feel that. You know B-A-D, you got 1 P. So what does that mean? We're going to sight from the porch down to the 1 piling. That's our start line. So you're gonna have to be, downwind of that start line before the start. And you are going to round all the roundings to port. So first mark is B, you're gonna sail straight towards B. Round that to port, then A, round that to port, and then D. And then cross the finish line. Okay, so that's just one example. That's like kind of an easy one.
Yeah.
Then they get more complicated, so. AX is
Yeah.
twice around, basically. We could also do, like, there's another way in the rules, we hardly ever do this, where we'd say AX, like 2AX or something. We have enough letters to put them up and spell it out. So AX, we like to do these ones, especially if the wind's coming from this direction, because this best simulates the normal windward movement. There's more opportunities to tack, more opportunities to pass. When you're just reaching around, that kind of gets boring. And
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like a parade. It's really hard to pass.
The hot dog course.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It is a tricky one. So now this one throws in a special little green bar over there. So we have this metal stick. One side's red, one side's green. And what we'll do is when we have a course that's a little bit interesting like this, we try and set it up so we're not going to have some boats rounding one way while boats that are either way ahead or way behind are rounding and gonna head-on collision and collide into each other. That could happen here, but the reason this being, if we did a port rounding on the second time around B, so B is port, A is port, the second B is green for starboard. Also, I remember port is like red wine, so that's how I remember port is red, and then green is the other one. So in this case, if we did the second rounding of B as a port rounding, you would come around here and have to go 270 degrees all the way around B. It's like a giant loop-de-loop. It's like going the wrong way around like a roundabout. It doesn't make sense. So that's why we threw in the last starboard there, so you can just kind of do a 90-degree turn around B. Here, now we have an S up there, so 1S. So all these marks are now starboard, except that last rounding of A, we go around port. So we're not going to do these complicated ones.
Yeah.
And you can shout at people too, if when you're out there,
Yeah.
if you forget what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, somebody knows.
Yeah, someone knows. They'll be like, it's port. Yeah. Yeah, but what if you're in first? I think we have a problem. Where am I going? First. Yeah, you always remember when you're first, obviously.
So this is one, we're not going to use this one today, but this is just another one of our tools that we have out there. We have the G mark. And the G mark is not actually a mark with the letter G, it means it's a gate. And the gate is usually the most downwind 2 marks. So a gate could be between D and C, or if the wind's coming all the way from the east, a gate could be between A and D or something. Usually it's D or C. So a gate just means that you can go between those marks, and you can either go starboard rounding around D or port rounding around C. You just have to go between them first and then around the outside. So this is when we have the gate marks in there, this is a big tactical opportunity sometimes, because you could be behind and then the race leader goes to either a gate where there's bad air, like bad wind, or a gate, sometimes the gates aren't very even. So if D might be a little bit closer upwind. So if you see your competitors going around C, or there's a whole clump of boats going around C, and you're kind of behind, you might actually kind of get back into the race by going around D
Got it.
and staying away from the traffic jam. The traffic jam gives you bad wind, it gives all these reasons to avoid that. And last, I think this is the last example. This is just, we don't have enough letters to put all these back and forth on the board, so we'll just say 3P and then DB. This is just a simple one. So this is something like, we'll probably do something like this today. It's just a back and forth, and I think the major difference here is that in this example, the wind is now coming from the left side of the TV here. So we're actually going to be circling around on the right side of the start line here, and we're going to be starting in that direction. So you're always going to go to the first mark. So sometimes the first mark might actually be downwind. So be prepared. Sometimes it gets interesting. We'll throw in a start where it's a downwind start. And it gets really interesting because when everyone is starting downwind, they tend to have their sails eased and their booms out. So all of a sudden the boats are much wider. And you really can bump into each other in a pre-start situation. And just a couple more examples. Okay, now finish. So basically as each boat crosses the finish line, race committee is going to call out your sail number, and we just ask that you clear the finish area. So just sail away somewhere. Try not to interfere with the boats that are still racing. It's hard sometimes for race committee. We can't see, like the sail numbers get blocked by other sails and we can't see who's crossing. So in the event of a capsize, so this is one of the things that after years of like chairing the Frostbite program, I've had so many people come to me concerned that they don't want a Frostbite because they're afraid of this. It's really not that bad. It's like,
Right.
first of all, now it's like warm.
Yeah, I would say the water's probably still pretty warm.
Yeah, the water's almost the same temperature as here.
Yeah.
So even in this picture, this is like March, or February.
There's
It's
snow.
cold.
I like the spectating family.
Yeah.
out there, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all these golf
Snow,
course
everyone's
folks
like
who
with
go for
golfers
walks and wonder
underwater.
what we're doing out there. But so the most important thing here is that if you tip over, the crash boat's going to come and grab you. So just try and make it as easy as possible for them to get you. Meaning like maybe you might have to get away from your boat so they can come up to you. They're going to pull you in and immediately take you back to the fuel dock. And the ladies' room's right there with a hot shower. So it's really not like you're going to be maybe freezing cold for 2 minutes at most before you can just go and soak yourself in hot water and you'll be fine. So it's really
What do you
not
do
that
about
bad.
the boat? Then they do the boat for you?
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
You just get warm,
Okay, got
get
it.
safe, and then they're going to go back out and come and do what they're doing in the photo here. They're going to come and rescue your boat. So in this picture, the sailor's already gone and is back on dry land. They're back out there rescuing the boat. In the meantime, everyone else has to, as soon as you hear or see somebody tip over, sail to the closest open dock. You don't have to sail back to where you rigged your boat. We want to make sure that no one else capsizes in the time it takes us to rescue this person, because then it kind of gets complicated. So just wait on the docks until the crash boat's completed, and once the crash boat is free to then, be a safety boat again, so as soon as this boat is safe and back on the dock, go ahead and go hop on your boat and keep sailing. We're gonna get the next race started right away. For a race though, if somebody tips over during a race, that entire race is automatically canceled. So if you cross the finish line in the first place, and then the 5th place boat tipped over, I'm sorry.
Wait, that's a good sabotage strategy.
Yeah, well,
I'm
yeah, it is. If
saying.
you want to
Yeah.
go in.
You're like, I don't want the,
It's part
now
of
I know.
It's like kind of part of the sportsmanship aspect of this.
Katie's in first. Oops,
Yeah.
my boat flipped.
No John Carco.
But if I could just add two things.
Yeah,
First,
no.
if you go over, don't worry about the boat. Worry about yourself. Make sure you're safe. Look for the crash boat, and they'll come and get you faster than you can believe. They're following the boats up and down the harbor. They come to you very quickly. The second thing is they'll go out and get your boat and bring it back to the dock. But it's your responsibility to figure out how it's going to get. If you're not going to sail again, and you're welcome to go out and sail in the next race or the race after, but if you decide not to sail, make sure that you de-rig your boat or find a pal who's out on the water and ask them to do it for you.
Yes.
Because it's still your responsibility to make sure the boat is put away even if you went over.
Yeah, a lot of you know this, and Drew and I have one, but I have a dry suit, and I don't know if any of you use them, but with that, you don't even think about, you don't worry about going in, because if you go and you're perfectly comfortable, you're completely dry, you literally, they pull out the boat, they get the water out, and off you're sailing again in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
So it's something to consider, yeah.
I did that for high school sailing.
Yeah, you're familiar with it.
I need to get out of
These boats cannot be self-rescued, unlike like a laser or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
420.
'Cause you
Once
totally-
water fills these boats in, you are getting rescued by the crash.
Yeah.
They are just, they're like little pigs that just, so, but
They're like
sometimes it
cows.
happens in slow motion, like it's like the Titanic, like literally water just slowly starts inching in, and it's like, oh, here it goes.
It's happening.
If you're lucky, like I've been in the past, I've gone in many times, and the boat slowly sinks in, starts coming up to my legs. I kind of have my foot braced on the side of the boat as it's sinking, and I get wet maybe up to my waist by the time the crash boat comes in and grabs me. So I'm actually still dry, and with some tight fitting like leggings and underneath layers of clothing.
Yeah.
My legs kind of warm up those wet pants pretty quickly, and I'm like ready to just go back out. I don't even need to come in here and warm up.
Are there bailers in the boats, or do we just burn?
You got the old style like opti bailers, so just
So
it
detergent.
just looks like
Yeah.
You got a bucket.
it looks like a plastic Folgers.
But it's
container.
in there.
Yeah.
They're all in there. They're on little strings with bungees. Try not to wrap them around your feet when you're sailing. That
have
sometimes
bailers
happens. Like I usually take the bailer when I'm not using it and like throw it into the front of the boat in front of the mast, so it's out of my way.
I noticed people last week after they tacked, they must have been dipping the gunnel under the water and they were bailing just
Right.
like 3 or 4 scoops
Oh, yeah.
out. As
That
they
would
went.
happen to me.
So if you're not
They're
roll
giant.
tacking these boats and almost getting a little water splashed in, you're not roll tacking hard enough. But don't worry, you don't have to do that in the beginning. That's something you want to practice towards doing. So if you come here on a Sunday afternoon and watch the advanced sailors sail after 1:15 or 1:30, you'll see them aggressively roll tacking and doing exactly that.
I know it rarely happens, but when you put the plug in, every once, I mean, if you find that you're bailing, and you don't see where the water's coming from, one time I had that plug come out. I
Yes.
mean, it was in, and I had sailed, like up and down a bunch of times, and somehow it came out. So if you seem like you're bailing a lot, that may be what's happened.
The other place water can come in is around the dagger board, and
Exactly.
you may need to tighten the screws around it between races.
So part of just sailing these boats is there's 2 screws next to the handle for the centerboard. Those 2 screws will either be loose or too tight, or it changes with temperature, with the weather, with use. So you might hop into a boat and try and shove off of the dock, and all of a sudden your centerboard's floating up. So it's everyone's responsibility for your own boat too. There's a toolbox right on the dock. There's a big Phillips head and a big flat head. Just go grab there and maybe just do a little tighten the screws evenly as best you can, and make small adjustments, because if you do too much or make them uneven, if you make them uneven, it's definitely going to leak. If you make them too tight, your centerboard's going to be stuck. And if you make them too loose, I'm talking like this is a difference in like a quarter turn of the screw. So it's kind of it can be annoying, especially if you're not used to this boat. A lot of people get frustrated with this aspect of the tires. So that's something just to check. Make sure that when you set your centerboard up and down, it should like stay where it is, where you leave it. And if you start sailing around, it should move. That's critical. And you will, it's just, these boats are pretty old. You will get a little bit of water seeping through the gasket around that pivot point. That's just normal. Nothing you can do about it. So you usually want to have some kind of waterproofing on your shoes, because your feet will get wet,
Yeah.
even if you don't tip over. So I guess I want to just kind of do a little overview of why these boats are different than if any of you sailed like Ideals or anything else. I mean, these boats are like Optis for adults.
Yeah.
They're very, very like inefficient through the water. They've got a big, wide bow, kind of flat front. They've got one sail, no jib. So the balance of this boat is very different from the typical boat that's got like a sloop rig with a jib and a mainsail. You're gonna have to basically purposely overpower your boat, your sail, to get this thing to push itself through the water. So some of the aspects that entails is the outhaul here. You'll notice that on these boats, the distance between the middle of the sail here and the boom is pretty big. Like if you ever had an Ideal 18 or any other boat with this much belly in your mainsail, that's terrible, don't do that. You need to put more outhaul on. But you actually want that on these boats. I usually kind of go like that with my hand, and that's kind of my measurement. I say, what was that, like 8 inches, 6 inches or something. The other thing too is these boats, because there's no jib, that's kind of, the jib usually acts as pressure on the bow to push the bow away from the wind. Because there's no jib with a single sail like this, the boat really wants to round up. So if you're gonna get hit by a puff, sometimes if you're not ready for it, you'll get surprised. All of a sudden the boat will round up, head to wind, you'll be stuck in irons. It's really hard to get out of there. And then all these other boats are coming at you yelling starboard or protest or something. So that's gonna happen to everybody. And I see one of the biggest struggles I see with sailors who are new to these boats. They'll get stuck head to wind, get stuck there for a while, finally fall off and start sailing again, and then immediately get stuck head to wind again. So how do you avoid that? There's a couple tricks. Number one is, the most important thing is, as you're sailing and you're sailing close to the wind, you always want to have a little bit of counter turn on the rudder. So you always want to be actually steering away from the wind slightly to balance the boat. The boat wants to steer up. You need to constantly, you want to be sailing in a consistent direction. If you notice you're turning, you might be holding, here's the tiller right here, you might be holding the tiller too centered in the boat. So if you just center the rudder, these boats will probably turn into the wind. So you gotta kind of pull.
I was saying, it's almost, I think you're
You gotta
pulling
pull it
towards
to
yourself.
windward a little bit.
You
So
pull
if you're
towards
sitting on the
yourself.
windward side, you gotta
Yeah.
pull it. You gotta pull the tiller to windward
Towards
just
yourself,
slightly.
yeah.
Now, if you're doing it too much, then you'll start to steer away from the wind. You don't want that either. So everyone's gonna get stuck. I think we're gonna actually do a drill. I want you to go out there and purposely go head to wind and stop and get out of it. And the way you can get out of it is a couple ways. I see people like sculling their boats to get out of it, but I don't like that. It's slow. It's really slow. I prefer to, you lift up the centerboard. Now that the centerboard is lifted up, the boat no longer pivots here, it's pivoting here. So all of a sudden this sail, relative to where the pivot point of the boat is way further forward. So actually now the sail has a lot more leverage to move the front of the boat. And so what's gonna happen now, you lift up your centerboard, you take your boom, and you can push your boom the opposite direction you wanna turn. So if you're stuck head to wind, like if I face this way, if I'm stuck head to wind, and I wanna go this way, I'll lift up my centerboard, I might push my boom a little bit to the left, and that will actually push my bow away this way. Now, once I kind of get past the point of like a close haul course, I'm like more than 45 degrees off the wind, I can let go of the boom, make sure it can sheet out a little bit, it might be luffing in this moment, pull my centerboard back up, or I'm sorry, put the centerboard back down, and then gently sheet in. And once you gently sheet in and start moving again, you'll start getting flow and over your rudder and your centerboard, and you'll start to be able to steer and control your boat again. Now this is the critical part. As you sheet in, the boat wants to round right back up. So as you sheet in, you have to be very delicate of how quickly you do it, and you also want to have a little bit of counter steer. You want to be kind of pulling the tiller to windward a little bit while you do this. Otherwise, you'll just repeat the whole process. So that move, to the centerboard up move is key sometimes. It even helps when you're rounding the mark. You're about to round the windward mark, and you need to steer downwind. Well, if it's not too windy, if it's just a nice calm day like today, you can just kind of lift up your centerboard, and the wind will just push the bow of your boat straight downwind and point you the way you want to go. And that's actually kind of like a little speed tip right there.
When you're doing the going downwind, do you suggest putting your centerboard up?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's only, so with all these different courses, examples here, I would
Only if
say-
you're like directly downwind.
I would say only if you're directly downwind.
Got it.
So like,
And also
in an
depends on how
example
windy
like
it
this,
is.
Yeah.
this wind
Right, so
is
if it's
kind of
not-
coming
if it's too
like
windy,
more
don't
from
do it.
like the
Yeah. If
southeast.
it's light wind, do it.
If you're trying to sail this way,
Yeah.
having your boom all the way out, like you're dead down, you're not actually dead downwind. So you might actually be going too slow, and the wind is actually going to want to sail you with your centerboard up. The wind's going to want to push you towards the golf club, towards the club, and not towards your mark. So it's only if it's straight behind you that you want to do that. That does help.
Yeah. And like a lighter wind day kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Now the most important thing though is if you do that, don't forget
Put it
put your
back down.
centerboard back down.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. You'll see each other doing it. Again, someone's gonna do it at some point. You're gonna make it to mark down there, and you're gonna go to round it, and you're gonna just sail that away.
Because you won't be able to turn it around.
And everyone is gonna pass you, and you're gonna be like, "What am I doing wrong?" It's usually your centerboard. We'll be on the shore being like, "Centerboard!" So
Yeah.
A corollary
Does it come all the
to,
way out,
For now, I
or
wouldn't just-
It's like you push it like this.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think for these guys, maybe they should just leave it.
yeah, just leave your
I wouldn't
centerboard
touch it
down.
at all.
I wouldn't touch it
For the
today.
downwind
I
stuff?
would
But if you
just,
wanted to at any point, does it come all the way out or?
No,
does
it's like
it
it's
pull
like
it
a
up?
lever sort of thing.
You'll-
So,
Okay.
so the straight up and down thing, I think that's like that's a dagger board, right?
Mhm.
So that technically
So
that's a
that
dagger
doesn't
board, like a
that's not
laser,
this
where
is-
it picks
okay.
up. The centerboard pivots, so it's kind of like a switchblade knife or something, like it's like
Oh,
pocket knife.
okay.
It like
So
pops
there's just
out.
like do like a-
you
it's
can
like
tell
this.
where
so you
it's
can
like
choose
halfway up.
positions in between as well. So if you want to
Yes.
get
So
it a
it's
little
not
bit
one
up.
or the other, okay, got it, okay. I thought it's either in or out, okay.
And I guess a corollary, and correct me if you disagree with me, Rhys, is, you know, the game in frostbiting is about going as fast as you can for as long as you can, and going slow at any point kills you in this race.
Exactly.
And so you really want to avoid being in irons. And so when you come about, don't go from close hauled to close hauled, go a little bit beyond close hauled, pick up speed again, and then go back to close hauled. Because if you tack and you're in irons, you're dead. You've lost a couple of places right there.
It takes a long time to get back up to speed again, so you really want to hold your momentum when you have it.
Right, this is a silly question, where is the centerboard in that boat?
So it's kind of hidden, but it's kind of out of the picture. It's very
Okay.
dark, but there's a little handle. So this little section here, that's the enclosure that the centerboard sits in,
Okay.
and then there's a handle just below the edge, down below here, where it's a big lever. And so when the lever is pointing kind of up, that's the centerboard up. And when the lever is all the way in the lowest position, that's centerboard at max down. But I always tell everyone, like, the best spot is point the handle right towards the leading edge of the bench. So the edge of this wooden bench here, point the handle straight towards the edge. That's like that means your centerboard's like straight up and down and not swept forward on the boat. Like there's a little too much range on these centerboards. So
We'll show you. I mean, we'll
Okay,
show you.
okay.
the speed aspect of these boats. So these boats are not fast. You're only going to be going like 3 miles an hour, 3 knots.
Speed is all relative.
So, well, that's exactly my next point, is that relative speed. So on big boats, when you're going 8 to 9 knots, going an extra half a knot on a big boat doesn't really matter nearly as much as going an extra half a knot when you're only going 3.
Right.
It's a much bigger percentage gain. So speed on these is critical. If you're sailing against someone who's very, very good at tactics and can roll tack and lead bow everybody and do all this cool stuff, but if you can just sail at 0.1 knots faster than them, you'll probably beat them anyways.
Nice.
So that all comes down to making sure you're very steady in the boat. You're not rocking around too much. You're not steering with the tiller too much. You want to kind of use your body a little bit to help roll the boat as opposed to just using the tiller. And then the trimming. So one of the keys to trimming the main here is, unlike ideals and especially big boats where you really want to center the boom, you don't center the boom in these boats. There's a little wire on the transom here with a block, and the main sheet connects to that block, and that wire kind of acts like a little traveler. So when you're fully sheeted in, kind of as a rule of thumb, you want to have your boom over the corner of the transom,
That's good to know.
not inside of that. If you're inside of that, you're probably over trimmed. It might look great, and the tailtails look great, but you're slow.
Do you wanna mention about tacking backwards? I mean,
Yeah, I
Just to
think it's
confuse-
probably best if we just go out. and
Okay.
talk and
yeah,
explain that.
it's a lot of information.
There's
Yeah,
many-
just, it's a lot, but we
There's many
really-
schools of
it's-
thought when it comes to tacking, and
Okay.
like, do you face
Yeah,
backwards
do
or
it.
forward?
And so it's not as bad
I
once
just
you're
never,
out
it never
there.
happens for me.
So, I mean, we're all here to help you guys. We're not
So before we go
gonna
outside,
leave
any
you
other
out there
questions?
and say,
Yeah.
I promise.
I don't know, I feel like it can either go really well or poorly.
I just like don't think it's just not on my to-do
No
list.
better day than today?
It's
So
not
you're-
that.
Yeah,
You're
today's
always
a
gonna be
good
sitting
day.
To learn how to
Hold
write.
on,
right in
what
the
was the
middle
question?
bench here.
Yeah.
Right.
I just
So the
think
body
never-
placement, where should you be on the boat? Basically, you're always gonna be sitting right on this middle
You're
bench,
going
and
down.
I wanna make sure that
Being right.
when I sail, I like to be in a place where my legs and my feet position allow me to quickly shift my weight without having to actually move my feet. Because the more steps you take inside the boat, every time you lift up your foot and put it back down, you could potentially slip. So if I have a firm stance and I can kind of just go like this, then you can control it a lot more, and a lot of times I've tipped over because I slipped in the boat and all of a sudden like I'm laying on my back and then I just capsize. So if you can avoid a lot of
I
capsize
don't really think about my
situations just
weight.
by staying
That's
up.
like
So
kind of like the ideals.
what you do with your legs
These are
too,
so big.
we'll go and talk about that out top, because some folks like to have their legs swing behind them. Some people like to have their legs swing in front of the bench, like facing forward in the boat.
I too.
I'm not gonna tell you what to do. It's like go out
Do it.
there and find your own personal
Yeah.
preference.
I'm excited.
You
I'm gonna be.
straddle the bench,
Yeah.
or you're on one side.
You could do either or, but I personally I straddle the bench. Like I'll have one foot to the right here and one foot to the back here, and when I go to tack, I'll actually like pick the leg up and swing, and then kind of pivot.
We're gonna try. Today's a good day for you to try.
Sometimes if you get hit by a breeze and the boat's kind of heeling over a little bit, you're gonna start sliding down to the bottom of the boat, and that's not good, because the more you get your weight down there, the more the boat's gonna wanna keep tipping. So sometimes you put one foot up on this little vertical section of the centerboard, kind of to
It'll
keep
be
yourself on the windward side of the boat. And, you know, if you're starting to tip too much, just let the sail go.
Let's go practice and we
When you
can
don't
figure
feel
out.
comfortable, you can.
Exactly.
Okay,
So is there any other questions before we go out to the
You got
docks?
Reese, you got all of us helping
One
you.
more.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you come into the dock, do you come in sideways?
I think
or
we're all
forwards?
else
And
is,
if
so
you
I
come in
wouldn't-
sideways, you
Cause
grab
somebody
onto
else to-
something, and does that make you go?
So one thing, yeah, exactly, that's a good question. So
Come again,
the-
sorry.
you have your shrouds here, and then you have your forestay. So like, never, ever, ever try to enter the boat between the shrouds and the forestay, because you will step in and just flip over and embarrass yourself. So don't do that. Yeah, you're always gonna want to enter the boat from the side. So when you're coming into the dock, the dock is completely covered in carpeting. Try not to like crash into it too hard, but you just kind of come in nice and slow, pull up like parallel park along the dock. While you're still sitting on the bench, you can put your hand down on the dock, and then kind of just work your way to get out of the boat. There's a little bow line in the front, so like I'll hang on to the dock, I'll reach forward, I'll grab the bow line, I'll climb out of the boat and hang on to the bow line, and then we'll pull the boat up onto the dock, and if you need help, everyone else is on the dock at the same time, we can help you.
Cool.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
So life jacket, you're welcome. So life jackets, if anyone has foul weather like overalls, I recommend it, because in case you get like a little water splash, it just keeps you dry. It's not really.